So, wanted to let you all know that a number of things have taken place in this past year regarding fees for DEQ. Several DEQ programs have increased their fees, and that has been noted. And I also will note here that our last fee increase for Brownfields was more than a decade ago, where we increased our standard fee from $5,500 to $8,000. Also, redevelopment now fees, which were instituted in 2008, have not increased since then. So, as you may know, the statute calls for us to recover all of the state costs for us and DOJ associated with that, with the fees that we collect for the program. And there are many things that have taken place in the program which make sites more complex. Since some of those fees have been instituted, vapor intrusion has come to the fore, and certainly both the assessment and the evaluation of risk and risk management has been complicated by those kinds of technological complications on these sites. So wanted to make sure that you all were aware that this is something that we are looking at to be working on in 2024. We note that a lot of programs did increase fees in 2023, and some are now even indexed to inflation. And we'll be going through a process by which we are looking at those kinds of fee increases that will take place. There are a number of scenarios we're looking at that are under review as to how about we're going to go do that. We don't have any particular details to present today, but what we did want to present today is that this process has been started, and it's as a result of making sure that we have fee revenue commensurate with the statutory challenges that we have to recover all of our costs for that. So that is something that we will be rolling out more and more in 2024. Next slide, please.
Bruce, before you get to that, we have two people who have raised their hand. I don't know if it's you want to talk with them now. Chris Ward, you were first. Did you have something?
We can. If somebody has questions, I'll listen to it now. We'll may hold it for later, or we may address it now. So let's see if Chris, you have your hand up.
I think I just allowed you to unmute yourself, Chris.
Okay, perfect. Actually, I was just raising my hand previously when you asked if people could hear you. So.
Oh, great.
Oh, great. Okay. Very good.
Thank
Sorry.
You. And then
and same thing for Valerie, or Valerie, do you have a question?
No, I did not. It was the same.
Okay,
issue.
great. That's fine.
Thanks.
I'm glad you all raised your hands. Thank you that you could hear me. All right. So I guess next slide. And we're going to talk a little bit also about staffing updates that we have been embarked upon here in 2024. And I'm going to turn it over to Tracy to talk about this.
And good afternoon, everyone. Hello, hope everyone is doing fine. Turn my camera on for a few seconds and just say hi to everyone, and then I will shut it off and you can just listen to my voice drone on. So here we go, staffing updates. We are so happy to add to our Brownfields family, and these additions that we've made have just been absolutely fantastic. You know, most of these folks came to us with limited Brownfields experience, but they had really solid environmental backgrounds. And it's really a pleasure for us, you know, as supervisors and, you know, more experienced folks in the program to see them grow and realize their potential. And for you all, we hope that means that your projects are moving forward successfully. And I just really want to take a moment here and celebrate them. And that's what the confetti and the fireworks are for. that these folks have just really stepped up and, really come into their own in the program, and we're just so happy about that. And additionally, I also want to applaud the incredible group of existing staff that we have, who have always been ready and willing to step up and assist them along the way. So many of them have been tagged for training, and they have just no qualms about it. They all want to help out, and it's just really a wonderful thing to be a part of. So over the last couple of years, we have hired and onboarded 7 new team members. We have 5 project managers for production that are filling existing vacancies that we had. We have 1 eligibility coordinator, which was also filling a vacancy that we had. And then we got a new project manager for the property management branch. And like it says there, they are just really finding their rhythm, and it's really exciting to watch them grow. In addition, we have a couple of candidates that we have put forth to human resources. We have a hydrogeologist and an environmental specialist. These will also be on the production side. And we are very hopeful that these 2 folks will join our team very soon. Really excited by them too. And I will just add that this year, at least I've noticed, and I think my fellow, supervisors and section chief have noticed, that the candidate pools for positions has expanded this year. In the past couple of years, we would get maybe 2 or 3, maybe 5 candidates, and really have to search to get what we were looking for. But we're seeing a much greater candidate pool, and a lot of these folks are very qualified individuals, and they want to work for the state. So we're really pleased with that, and that just will help us immensely. And then lastly, but not least, we do have an engineer that will be starting in property management branch at the end of this month. And I know that PMB is thrilled about that, and it will hopefully, give them some more capacity. So that is kind of the extent of our staffing update. And I'm going to roll right into our project initiator role. And hopefully a lot of you have had an opportunity to work with one of our incredible project initiators. We've kind of made this a rotational task-oriented position. It's our existing senior level project managers, and they are just taking a rotation in doing the project initiation. And so far, the feedback we have heard on this implementation it's been stellar. They're doing incredible work, and everybody seems to be pleased with that process. We initiated this in late 2022. I want to say might have been November, late November. So it was really late 2022. And it has just really been an ideal role, bringing a balance of efficiency and effectiveness to what was, you all know, an extensive backlog of projects. So we, since we initiated this, we have been able to work through more than 80 RN projects, and that means they've been reviewed for data gaps. They've held kickoff meetings, reviewed work plans, and got those assessments really moving forward, which is what a lot of folks who were sitting in the queue waiting to get moving needed to do assessments. So many of those assessments are completed. We have the reports in hand, and a number of those projects have transitioned to their assigned project manager and are moving along quite well. And we were able to do that with this role in an 18-month period. So just really successful, really happy with this. Going to see that we're going to continue with this for the foreseeable future. And we've been able to work that backlog of RN projects down to what is currently in undergoing eligibility review. And just so you're aware, over the last several years, 70+% of our projects are RN now. So that is the bulk of our projects. And that means, historically we had designated project managers for redevelopment now. And now the norm is that all of our project managers are doing RN projects. And most of our new folks who have come on board are exclusively doing RN projects. So they are learning the process at warp speed. But because of this role, and the success of it, some of our project managers have had the capacity to circle back to some of the standard projects that are in the queue as they're able to fit them in. So we will continue to work towards these efficiencies and, do what we can to, keep our mission of bringing value and benefits to brownfields. And, we're doing that across all realms, and it really fittingly, that dives right into access DEQ brownfields. And this, for some of you have heard this before, and at our last stakeholders meeting, our developer actually gave an overview of what that looks like. So this is, Microsoft Dynamics Data Management System. It is also known as Permitting Transformation Program, or PTP. And we are just really thrilled to transition into Access DEQ for brownfields. I can tell you that I have been in weekly meetings until the beginning of this year for 1.5 years. And yes, I did say weekly. And that was just the meetings. That didn't include all of our homework that we had to do. And this year, because our developers are doing the big lift on getting everything up and operational, it's been bi-weekly. But we really believe that Access DEQ is going to give all of us a much better grasp on data management from our application into the portal all the way through property management stewardship of the projects. And this is going to give, and maybe you recall, maybe you don't, it's going to give each project a dashboard so that the project team, from an external standpoint, can track the project process. You'll get notifications. You'll be able to upload all kinds of all your submittals to the portal and even make payments. It's just going to have this very intuitive back and forth between, whether it's the eligibility coordinator or it's your PM. You'll have a great back and forth capability. Now, we had some external beta testers in our initial group, and they were involved in testing the application phase at the end of last year. That same group of external beta testers are going to be tapped, likely starting next week, by our developer team from DIT, and they'll start testing the test environment. We've already been doing that internally. And so once the bugs are worked out, I know we identified some things during our testing, and we'll see what the external folks identify. Once they work through those issues, we'll be able to go into transitioning our internal staff, and we are hopeful that that will happen in June of this year. And then that will progress into a soft launch, which will be those external test groups actually using the fully functional system for all of their brownfields work, and then transitioning that into all others during July and August. And, we mean this from everything, all the applications, reports, any submittals, VIMPs, EMPs, all of that will be coming through the portal. And then our goal is to have all of our external users on Access DEQ starting in August and through December, and transitioning fully over to it by the end of the year. And that means that next year your LURO submittals will be through the portal. The little uphill climb there, I thought that was a good picture to include, that this is going to be an uphill climb for all of us, but we're all going to be here to help each other out, and very excited about what this can bring to you, but also it's going to be just such a valuable tool for us. I can say yesterday, Jocelyn asked me about an old project, and I happened to be on my dashboard, and I just put the first 5 digits of the Brownfields project number in my search bar, and it came up with a whole bunch of information about that project and exactly what I was looking for to get a better idea of what she was asking about. So, so far, I'm enjoying it, and I hope everyone else will too. And that is really the end of our presentation for today. So I will go ahead and open it up, I guess, back through Jocelyn for any questions, or Sharon, if anything came through.
Yeah, so far we just have one question. So if any of you others have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. The first question we have is, what is the projected turnaround for any new RN projects? Bruce, if you want to take that one, or Tracy.
Sure, yeah, I could do that. Our projected turnaround times on those projects, we hope to be coming down. They're not going to come down instantly, but we are looking probably at a 24 month kind of time frame on RN projects. Depends on their complications that might be involved. So yeah, it's a site-specific thing still. And simple sites always go quicker than complex ones, but that would be the kind of average time frame that we would be looking at currently. Obviously, we're looking to do what we can to knock that time down. In 2023, we were able to complete 55 brownfield agreements, whereas, from the previous years where we had turnover and difficult time being able to hire up resources, we had completed 31. So we're back sort of in the mid 50 range on that. And we look forward to those kinds of numbers again, if not higher. And so we have instituted quarterly goals. And for those of you who are working on projects where you have your project managers saying, hey, you're really slated for getting completions done here in the first quarter or second quarter, do pay attention to that, because the more that we can move forward on those particular projects and make sure that those are moving, and by moving, I mean also making sure that, those documents that we need to have are coming in, such as the plats. We don't want plats to get involved in the critical path, and that really can delay things. So yes.
Yeah, and I would add to that too, that it is relatively faster than standard.
Oh yes, the standard process is considerably longer than that, no doubt.
It's very hard with, although our staffing's improving, it's tough to get to the standards, to be quite honest. But we have to prioritize RN projects. The next question is, do you anticipate more hires with the RN monies to speed up the process? Well,
yes, I think that's the object. Certainly that is the object of what we're looking for, to be able to process a higher level of demand, to be able to do that. No question about it. And in addition to that, let me just also say that the long-term monitoring of sites and stewardship of sites through the property management branch, we do have a grant from EPA to be able to do that. And as folks know, this particular program started with those kinds of grants, and we're able to transition into fees that supported this as well. So depending on what EPA may be doing with those kinds of grant funds, we don't have, assurance from EPA that they're going to continue beyond the 5-year grant for that we've received. So yes, we will be looking to fees and fee revisions with the idea that all of the state costs need to be recovered. And that would include those kinds of present value of those kinds of stewardship requirements as well.
And I would add to that, with this access DEQ system coming about and the staffing that, will be added to our program shortly, there's a lot of things at play at the same time, including the VI guidance documents that we just released. All of those things are designed to help us internally be more efficient, and hopefully you all be more efficient because you'll understand requirements and so on and so forth. So I think too, it's, when people ask this question, how long does it take? Well, that takes time for someone to dig through that information and pull it out manually, which is very time consuming and not an efficient process. And so having the dashboard of my access for Brownfields, I think, is going to be great, because we should be able to measure those things accurately and quickly, and won't take half a day or a day to go through reams of data. So we're hoping that'll lots of things will combine to make everybody more efficient in this process. Okay, next question. With all submittals, including LURUs, to be submitted through the portal within the year, will the language in Brownfields agreements begin to reflect this?
I don't know that we've done a lot of thinking that we would be necessarily changing our brownfield agreements to use the portal. I think at this particular point in time, there may yet be options to use the portal for 2025. We'd like you to use the portal for 2025. Will it be the only way to submit it at that particular point in time? Probably not. So, if we get to that point where it has to be a part of the LURU or part of the language of a brownfield agreement, we've really not thought that we would have to do that. But who knows? Interesting concept or idea. I don't think we anticipate it though.
Okay, the next question was, where can these guidance documents be found? And Jocelyn just put the link in the chat. So if you folks have not seen them yet, they also were attached to an email that went out last week for those people who the meeting link went out to, but Jocelyn's got the link here. They are on our website and the link's in the chat. Okay, and all right, that is the last question that we have in the chat. Anybody else have anything? Okay, here we go. Will DEQ be weighing in on the new PFAS ruling as a hazardous substance under CERCLA? Should we anticipate that PFAS assessment will be included during data gap assessments going forward?
Boy, there's a good question. Clearly, PFAS is becoming more and more ubiquitous within a lot of different programs. I suspect that it will become more ubiquitous within brownfields. However, in that regard, I think what our current policy about this is if we see sites where we have what we suspect to be PFAS sources, and those PFAS sources might be impacting receptors, those would be the kind of sites that we would be looking at for doing PFAS sampling. That's not a whole lot of sites thus far. I don't think in the very near future that is going to be a large addition of sites, but we're keeping our eye on PFAS as well. And I would anticipate a slow growth of PFAS, in the context of brownfields over time. But there's nothing imminent about us making PFAS a centerpiece of anything. Now, let me just say that on PFAS sites, as PFAS sites go, we have one site whose primary contaminant thus far, and that was the reason they applied for a Brownfields agreement, is PFAS. That was a new one. And so we have one site like that. We have another site where we are aware that there is PFAS as a contaminant source on the site that we are looking at as well. And maybe that is, there might be a third site that we are planning on doing that as well. So out of all the sites we're working on, it's not very many that we have currently. Not very many that we are currently looking at, and I wouldn't anticipate a rapid rise in those from a assessment standpoint right away.
Thanks, Bruce. Anybody else have another question, either in the chat, or I guess you could raise your hand if you'd rather do that?
Yeah, I just have to change the setting on your mic, and I'm happy to do that if you let me know.
Are we really just having a 29-minute stakeholders meeting with all of you on?
And I will add, this is Tracy again, that, our next stakeholder meeting should be around the August timeframe. We haven't set a specific date yet. We are going to try and do these more on a, scheduled quarterly basis. And, these will become more, here's the latest, and hopefully more roundtable-ish conversations in the future.
Right. Okay, I see a new message. Will assessment of PFAS be limited to PFOA and PFOS in line with CERCLA?
I think that EPA has come out with some of their regulatory standards for more than just 2 compounds. I think the PFAS compounds that they're looking at may include 6 compounds now. So, I mean, we would be staying in touch with the latest on that, and also the approaches that are coming through DWM in a lot of different programs. We're not the PFAS experts, but we would be consulting with PFAS experts within DEQ as to what exactly, the kinds of things and PFAS assessments we would be looking at. Obviously, those kind of PFAS assessments and PFAS analyticals find way more compounds than that. But in the regulatory sense, they're not coming up with those kinds of regulatory levels for all of those compounds. There's not even numbers in risk calculators for those kinds of things as of yet. So I would anticipate a regulatory evolution of those kinds of, to answer those kinds of questions. I can't give you more of a definitive answer than that. I'm sorry.
There was a hand up on Adam. It said Adam Guest. I didn't have a last name. Do you see that, Jocelyn?
I did, and I allowed access, so you just need to unmute yourself.
Adam, you've got your hand up. If you can unmute, you'll be able to address the group. Okay, there's another question in the chat. You mentioned a turnaround time of about 24 months for RN sites in the Q&A. What about the anticipated turnaround time on standard non-RN sites? Longer.
Yes, way longer. And in fact, if you look at the current numbers for those kinds of sites, we're well above 36 months.
Yeah. Okay, Adam says he doesn't think he can unmute. Adam, can you write your question in the chat box?
Or can Jocelyn, you give me an opportunity to do that?
It shows on my end as that he has the option to unmute.
Okay.
I can't unmute for him, but he should have that.
Gotcha.
I don't know. Sorry.
I think he might be putting something in the chat.
And while we're
Anyone-
waiting for Adam to
anyone
put
else?
the question in the chat, if there's anybody else who would like ask any particular questions, I know we sent out the final version of the documents, the guidance documents, about a week ago. So,
Yep. And actually,
This
Bruce,
isn't-
Adam has this question in here. I had some
Okay.
technical, oh, whoa, okay, wait a second. It just flipped on me. I had some technical questions about the VI and helium leak testing.
okay.
And there's quite a lot. Okay, so this is I'll go ahead and read it. If laboratory does not analyze canister for helium, how is the helium leak test of the sample train and shroud capable of detecting a leak at the canister fitting? This location is downstream of the field meter, so leak would not be detected by field meter. Therefore, wouldn't requiring a shut-in test be a better option? And then if leak testing is performed during sampling, wouldn't the flow rate exceed 0.2 liters per minute? The helium meter and canister would be drawing soil gas from the probe at the same time. And then lastly, why is the backflow preventer not required to be tested? If the backflow preventer is leaking, ambient air is being pulled into the sample train, would it not be better to eliminate this mode of failure entirely? So if you need, you can refer to the chat to refresh.
Sure. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
on
Bruce.
that, yeah, on that kind of question, I don't know if Kelly is here and wants to take a stab at that, but that was what I would suggest. And Jocelyn, I don't know if you can unmute Kelly to have a conversation about that. And the other possibility, if Kelly cannot do that, is we will definitely hook you up with Kelly offline to have those kinds of questions answered.
Oh, there we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay. Hey, everybody. This is Kelly Johnson. Let's see here. That's a long question there, but some good ones in there about leak checking. I think one thing that we saw in the past was about helium, analyzing for helium at the laboratory. One thing there that, that's not as advantageous for us is because we really want to know real time if you need to replace your point. In the past, when the laboratory was analyzing for helium, a lot of times consultants and developers would have to remobilize because they'd find out later that their samples were no good. Let's see.
Yeah, so having that real-time knowledge in the field to understand if you've got a leak gives you an opportunity to fix it right there instead of having your whole data set ruined.
Yeah, and let's see. I see as a comment there about a shut-in test being a better option, and as an alternative for leak checking, no, it would not be a better option. However, a shut-in test is highly encouraged, and it's really easy. It's just, it only takes you a few minutes. And honestly, most consultants, it's the most common. They'll do shut-in tests on all their things before they initiate their leak testing. And I think finding a way for us to make that a requirement and the updated DWM VI guidance, I think would be a good idea. But again, you don't want to do just the shut-in test. We have found that not always to be good because there's some fittings that you can miss.
And then Kelly, there was the piece about the backflow preventer not required to be tested. And the flow rate. Can you address those issues as well?
Yeah, I was just reading it through there.
Yeah. All right.
The backflow preventer, do you mean tested as included in the sampling train and part of the leak check? I mean, I guess if you have a backflow preventer on there, what we commonly see is people use valves to direct the soil gas to like a syringe, like stopcock valves or something like that, so that there's no really anything open out, and they'll direct that to a Tedlar bag and then connect that, long story short, over to the helium detector. But if you do want to connect your helium detector to the sampling train, you've got to make sure it's powerful enough. And then what that comment there has a good point. It's about a backflow preventer because the common helium detector is not made to make a vacuum, it will allow back, it'll pull back air back through it. And I think there, if that were the case and you had a backflow preventer, you're kind of already checking it. Because if you started to pull in ambient air, you'd start pulling in helium from around you. I would think. I think that's what he was getting at there. And the last part was about the flow rate.
Yeah. Wouldn't the flow rate exceed 0.2 liters per minute? The helium meter and canister would be drawing soil gas from the probe at the same time.
You should definitely not initiate the two at the same time. You would do your full purging and leak check, complete that process, verify that your soil gas sampling train is adequate and fully competent, and then open up your canister at that time. If you do them both at the same time, that's not right. So don't do that.
Okay.
But those are really good questions.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly. The next question, is there a role for AI to assist Brownfield staff in reviewing submittals and decreasing review times, especially submittals with extensive amounts of data?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Okay, we have not looked at that. I would imagine if there are AI tools that allowed us to review large amounts of data, we would be open to using them. They would be very difficult to do evaluations of those kinds of things in the context of risk management. But in evaluating data, perhaps that's the case. We are working on systems where the information that will be submitted through EQUIS may be able to be directly plugged into the risk calculator. We have a temp employee who was an intern for us this past summer who is working on that very issue, and we're trying to get the link in between EQUIS and the risk calculator, and believe that we have already successfully been able to have EQUIS data that's submitted to us be formatted into the form of an Exhibit 2, which is very useful. So those kinds of approaches we are looking at, and they're not really AI approaches as much as they are with sort of developing our own app type approaches that would allow those kinds of data analysis to become more efficient. So let me just answer the question that way, Stanford.
The next question has to do with the new PE seal language, and says the new PE seal language includes this language, quote, fully protective of public health within the meaning of NCGS 130A-310.32A2, close quote. The Brownfield statute does not define the term, quote, fully protective of public health and the environment, close quote. This ambiguity is concerning to consultants and their licensed engineers. We recommend rulemaking be initiated to address this concern and define appropriate terms in the requested PE certification.
A couple things there. The concept behind putting that language in there really is for prospective developers who are concerned that we were going down a road where that was not yet defined. What we're saying here is that it's defined in a risk-based way, and it's really not the case. And I've stated this previously, that you stop at fully protective of public health. It's not fully protective of public health alone in the statute. It's fully protective of public health instead of being remediated to unrestricted use standards, right? So it fully recognizes that there are things protected of public health which fall short of meeting unrestricted use standards. And that is where risk evaluation and risk assessment risk comes in. So we're not trying to do this to an individual standard, but we're doing this to a risk evaluation level using risk calculators. And that is the meaning behind putting that in there. And it really provides that, the intent of it was to provide that wiggle room for that purpose, to make sure that everybody is aware that we're doing this on a risk-based level. So as Brownfields is the ultimate risk-based program, because we do have those words in the statute that say instead of being remediated to unrestricted use standards. And I would also say that all flexibility is lost when you put a rule in place which says what is in fact those standards would be. So if we want to talk about that further, either offline, Tom, or if you want to unmute Tom, I'm more than happy to have more of a conversation about that.
Just gave Tom access if he
Okay,
chose
cool.
to.
Further questions on that, Tom?
He said we could talk
Oh.
offline.
Okay, sure, that's fine.
Okay. All right, let's go on to the next question. I think Jocelyn probably addressed this within the chat. Is there a consolidated list of all forms and guidance checklists that are current for each phase of the projects that are currently required or recommended? I assume you'd be letting everyone know at these ongoing meetings if a form has been modified going forward. And all of the checklists that we're aware of, they are on our website. I think Jocelyn has put that in the chat. And I would just suggest to everyone that before you fill out something, go to the website and make sure you are using the most recent version of, the EMP form, the various checklists that we have. The VI decision matrix that we're sort of colloquially calling it, and the guidance that goes with that has taken us, quite some time to pull all that together. We try to be very, very thoughtful and put all that together. I don't think anyone's going to run out and revise that anytime soon, at least not on this side. So I don't know, Bruce or Tracy, Jocelyn, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I would just say that those kinds of things should also be guided by your communications with your project managers on your individual sites as well.
Yeah. Okay. Kelly, this is another one on the helium leak testing. During last stakeholders meeting, there was some discussion regarding using other tracer gases when doing methane soil gas testing, since helium detectors respond to methane and could result in false positives. Any news or updates?
Yeah, still a very good question. And for everybody else to update, on sites where you've got methane, especially at high concentrations, the way that the most common helium detector meters work is that it'll show the high methane will make you have a reading for high methane will make you have a reading for helium. And having something official down on other tracer gas options, not yet. We've kind of been doing on a site-by-site basis so far, trying to figure out what are some of the best things. But we've seen a number of other proposals of some of the other gases. There's some sewer gases and things like that people have used that have a specific meter. And so we've been pretty open to it and looking at all those. So in the future, after this current round of VI guidance and everything is all set, we'll look at updating it or getting something else together.
Jordan, did you have something to add to the methane discussion?
So on the lines of helium leak testing, Kelly's absolutely right. We know it throws a false positive in your gym. The way we're doing our leak testing and our methane sampling right now is the points constructed, left alone, left to stabilize. You immediately hook it up to the gym. You screen for methane. You screen for you screen for pressure. You screen for methane. Then you construct your shroud and do your helium check. So we know it's backwards from how we do VI, but the reason for that is because methane is so fluctuable and it will change, with barometric pressure, with if you've kept the stopcock open, or if you've just vented those 3 purge volumes, you've just lost any methane chance reading that you had. So when we, by doing it in that stepwise fashion, check for methane first, then do your leak check, there shouldn't have been any helium introduced into the sample train that would cause a false positive.
anything else to add to that, Kelly, for that response?
No, that's very good.
Okay, thanks, Jordan. The next question, back to money. As RN applications are now at $30,000 and Brownfield had 50 plus last year, that's more than $1.5 million in fee revenue. Can you briefly discuss where that money goes and how it's spent in addition to hiring more staff? Thanks.
Well, I mean, in addition to hiring more staff, that was really where the bulk of the money goes. There's nothing, there's on a budgetary level, there are some IT charges for the program as well. But really the bulk of the money does go toward salaries.
Okay. Next question. Thanks for providing the time frame for the redevelopment now option for completing the process. Not sure if I missed it, but what is the turnaround for letters of eligibility? I guess, I mean, I can take that one. I think it depends on the completeness of the application. Sometimes it strikes us that all of the good brownfield sites are taken and you're getting more complicated ones with more complicated eligibility decisions. I think we're, in the 1 to 2 month if we have all the information and we're, it's not complicated by something unusual like a corporate structure that, there could be some affiliation with a responsible party, things like that. But I think we've been working. There was a period of time where we were so slammed with new applications, it was very, very difficult for our eligibility coordinator to keep up. But I think we're back now to, 1 to 2 months. Tracy, Bruce, I think that's kind of where we are.
I would say I agree with you, Sharon. If we have all the,
Right.
pertinent information in the application, I know there's a lot
right.
of back and forth between our eligibility coordinator and the applicant team.
That's right.
But I will say, I think we're still a little backlogged in West as far as getting through them. And that's really just on me for being backlogged. Lauren does a fantastic job and gets them set up in my queue. So I would say it's probably closer to 2 to 3 months in West, but hopefully that is going to start, getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah. Okay. I think, nope. No,
Sharon,
okay,
Tom had
that
his
was it.
hand up.
Yeah, it's Tom Payne.
Mhm.
Hey guys, this is Caitlin Ornhouse with GeoSyntech. I'm here with some of my employees who logged
Good.
in. So that was my comment. I appreciate the risk-based approach that Brownfields uses. I guess the question is, can we not use the EMC to find that term to help like in litigation matters and to protect the engineers and to protect the Brownfields program as well? I just feel like rulemaking could be something that we could pursue.
Well, I mean, we'll, in that regard, there is no process under the current statute, no call for authority for making rules along those lines, in our statute. And the approach that we have always taken along these lines, Caitlin, for this, and it's really been driven by stakeholders, is the desire for flexibility in not having rules for that. Understanding that there may be issues along those lines for engineers, and I'm more than willing to talk about approaches for that, that we might be able to solve that problem, and even try to solve that problem short of making rules. Rule-making process obviously is one that's going to be a long one these days, and I'm not saying that we can't start down that road and ultimately end up somewhere, except that I really don't think that is good for the program and good for prospective developers who are entering the program. If there are issues pertaining to this issue, with engineers, I'm more than willing to talk about it and come up with some practical solutions. Additional language changes, we've already demonstrated our willingness to make some kinds of changes to this. But if we're going down the road of having these kinds of things be public health protection, and that we're relying on engineers, we simply have to rely on an engineer seal that says something about public health protection to make sure that, if there are additional language changes that we can look at, for those kinds of things, I'm open to that discussion.
I think too, it's important to recognize that when we were developing this language that Nancy Hardison, our attorney, in-house attorney, did talk with the engineer board, and they did not see issues with that language.
Or the council for the engineer board, but
The
yes.
council, excuse me, the council for the engineer board.
In
Nancy's
that-
also put a comment in the chat, which she said, keep in mind that rulemaking is an extremely lengthy process, and the length of that process could inhibit the ability to quickly incorporate updated technology, et cetera.
Yeah, and it
Food for
makes
thought.
it makes the program less nimble and responsive to the needs of prospective developers for flexibility and other things. And this has been, one of the cornerstones of the program is that kind of flexibility, practical decision making without having rules, which makes the program the success that it is today. And so going down that road is a little bit, is something that I really think we need to think about before we head down that way. And like I said, we've already provided some kind of language that alleviated some engineers' concerns with adding this reference to the statutory, to the statute, within the meaning of the statute. And I think that, whatever kinds of things and approaches that we can look at within that context, we will be open to those kinds of languages, Caitlin.
Thanks. I know you guys are always willing to work with us. I appreciate that. I know some attorneys had some concerns with that, just the term fully protective as well, and it just not being defined. So it may be helpful to talk with the engineering board too, and just get their insight on that.
Understood.
But I appreciate it.
And, and I said, as within the context of the statute or within the meaning of the statute, really meant to be bringing in that the other portions of that fully protected of public health instead of being remediated to unrestricted use standards, which is a key component. It's not just fully protected of public health in the environment. It's instead of being remediated to unrestricted use standards. And that's got to be brought into it. We felt like this language does provide that room for that to be able to say, okay, within the meaning of brownfields, not within the meaning of MCLs or whatever other kind of comes out. It's even within the meaning of risk-based mitigation that we do in brownfields.
That's a fair point.
All right. That is all the questions we have currently. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add or any other questions, either in the chat or raise your hand?
Just a reminder that we do have that Microsoft form on the website for August. If you have topics come up that you'd like to see us do more of a presentation on, you're welcome to submit ideas on the website there. So I think that's an option as well for you all to submit your questions ahead of time.
And where do people, this has been recorded. Jocelyn, is everyone that's on the meeting will get a link to the recording? Is that how that works?
It's fully accessible on the website at the location that I posted earlier, the same place where the VIMS documents link is, and I'll pop it here in the chat again. But that is now a part of our website. Anytime you want updates, need a recording, everything will be posted on that website. My intent is not to spam everybody with emails, but you should be able to access that website and to get whatever you need.
That's great. Okay. Anything else from anyone?
I will just note that we have, almost 120 people here currently. At some point in time, there were even more than that. So that's a really encouraging thing. There's a lot of stakeholders who are interested, and that's, we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I think we can call this then. I don't see anything else coming in from anyone.
Yep, and folks are steadily dropping out.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.